So she walked from her house across a 4-lane highway, railroad tracks, through downtown, and then like past a farmer's field into a neighborhood and all the way into the back of that neighborhood into somebody's house. What's going on, YouTube? Bryce, your favorite AMP-IA Part 147 instructor, back again with another video. And in this video, I wanted to bring y'all something a little bit more personal. It's something I've talked about on the channel, but not really something that I've ever made a full video on, and that's what this video is essentially going to be about. This video is about putting my mother-in-law and the process that has gone into putting my mother-in-law in assisted living and why we ultimately made that decision. So for those of you who are, maybe this is your first video, I don't know why this would be your first video, but if it is, you know, stick around. For those of you that this is your first video or you haven't been with the channel for very long, my mother-in-law is 83 years old, and we had to put her in a nursing home last year because she has Alzheimer's and dementia. And essentially where the decision came about is she had had a home health provider because she was going sort of downhill in quality. And when I say quality, I just mean like cognitive ability and thought process, if you will. But she was going downhill kind of rapidly. She was begging my wife to come over every single day. If we didn't go visit her, she would call with some sort of emergency for us to come visit her. And it was just kind of this reverberating door. So she had a home health provider for like 8 hours out of the day that a home health provider was there. And they don't really do a lot except sit with them, but it's something, right? And essentially what happened was we went on like that for probably 2 years, and we decided we were going to take her back to Pennsylvania, where she was born and raised, for I think it was like her 80th or 81st birthday. We wanted to take her back to Pennsylvania one last time so she could go back east and see her childhood home and all that. And we did that, and we did. We went to Pennsylvania. She lived very close to Gettysburg, up on Pinmar Mountain, and then there's a little town down from Pinmar Mountain. I forget the name of the town, but her house is up there right on like the Maryland and Pennsylvania border. So she saw that, and it was kind of heartbreaking because she doesn't really remember going. Even I think we took her a little late, but it was kind of an eye-opening experience for the wife and I, because while we were there, we got her own room. So we had a room, our boys had a room, and then she had her own room, and we're all kind of like adjacent and down the hallway from one another. As soon as we got to the hotel, she was like, "I don't like this. I don't want to be in here alone. I'm all alone. I can't believe you would do this to me." And we're like, What do you mean? Like, this is your room. This is your own room for you to stay in. And she's like, "Well, I don't want to stay here alone." So the first night was kind of our first eye-opening experience that something was seriously wrong, or that she'd gone downhill more than we thought she had. Because she wandered out in the hallway and she was like knocking on people's doors looking for my wife, and she couldn't find her. So we ended up bringing her into our room, and she slept in our room for the duration of the vacation. And essentially we just had this room across the hall that we didn't use the whole time. But she'd wake up throughout the night over and over again, like asking for my wife or asking for, you know, whatever. And it kind of kept us up for the whole vacation. And it was just a really bad experience. So that was the first indication that, you know, something's more wrong than we thought it was, because we didn't spend every day with her. And then the kind of the final nail in the coffin is she walked from her house across a 4-lane major highway, across railroad tracks, down through downtown, past a farmer's field, into a neighborhood, and all the way into the back of the neighborhood into somebody's house. And they found her, a really nice family. They found her in their garage, like looking for something, and she just happened to have her wallet on her, and in her wallet was a handwritten note with my wife's name and her phone number. So they called that phone number. Obviously it was my wife, and then we came and picked her up. But they had also called the police, so Adult Protective Services got involved. And they're not like Child Protective Services. They don't really do a lot. They just help you get set up with assisted living. They help you get set up with like Medicaid and all that kind of process. But I'm not going to say they're useless. They kind of assumed that we knew what we were doing, and since we were already taking care of it, they were like, "No, all right, you got it." But that was pretty much the final nail in the coffin, and we're like, she has to go to assisted living because now she's wandering out of her house and she's leaving. And of course, you know, when you talk to people, they're like, "Oh, well, just stay with her or just have her live with you." We can't. I work, 10, 12 hours a day. My wife works 10, 12 hours a day, and both the boys are either at school or work. So nobody's home. So she would still be alone in the house. She would just be alone at our house instead of her house, which is even worse because now she'd be confused as to where she's at. And God only knows where she'd wander off to at our house, because we live in the middle of nowhere. Like, we live literally 10 miles from, actually 15 miles from any town, out in like a little isolated neighborhood. So that wasn't going to work. So we went through the process of getting her approved for Medicaid, which is very difficult because we had to prove all of her income, we had to prove all of her assets, and she doesn't have any money. She never had any money because she never really worked. She was kind of a stay-at-home traditional wife, as they sometimes refer to it, and she maybe worked a job here as like a teacher's aide, or she worked at the school as a teacher for a little bit, but not really like a full job. But we still had to go through the Medicaid application process and prove to them that she made less than $2,000 a month, that she didn't own a home, and that she didn't have any assets that she could liquidate or sell. So like her car, for example, is, if you sell it, it becomes an asset, and Medicaid looks at it like, you can have a car, but you can't sell it, because if you sell it, it becomes an asset, and then Medicaid will take that money. So they took basically all of her Social Security, which isn't that much. It's like maybe $1,200 a month that she gets from Social Security and retirement. They took that, they took everything else, and now every single month we get a bill from the nursing home, and Medicaid pays their portion, and then all of the money that went into my mother-in-law's account, my wife has to pay on her behalf, and the nursing home is like $6,000 a month, which is about as good as you can possibly get. But she is in a nursing home now. She's been in a nursing home for about a year. During this time, her Alzheimer's and dementia has gotten worse, as it does. And that's why I get really busy with it. We try to go visit her every single day, if not every single day, every other day. We try to take her out on the weekends, either to church or to dinner. Some weekends, like we took her to church and she got really confused with communion and she put her trash in the communion cup. So we decided not to take her to communion Sundays anymore. So we just take her to regular church. But even then, she still kind of gets confused as to why we're there. Sometimes she thinks it's a funeral. She doesn't recognize the building and all that kind of stuff. And she's always like hyper fixated on the wrong thing. She's always, well, that guy that's in my house. It's like, nobody's in your house, but that's what she's focused on. And it can be kind of frustrating. She's always worried about being left alone. Like, she doesn't want us to leave her alone. It's like, you're going back to the nursing home where you're surrounded by CNAs and nurses who are there for you. But it's just a cruel disease. I mean, she gets really agitated and really anxious very easily. She'll get real worked up and real emotional, and it can be very emotionally taxing on my wife, a little bit on me, and it just means that we're always busy. If we're not working, we come home, we eat dinner, and then we get in the car and we go to the nursing home, and we spend an hour and a half with her. Then we get right back in the car and we come back home, take showers, and it's time for bed because that's how the schedule is. So when we're not doing that, I'm working on airplanes on the side, and it's constant, and it's just part of my life that I don't really share on here. I'm not complaining about it. Don't think that I'm complaining about any of this kind of stuff. I'm just giving you sort of some of the real that happens outside of my job here at the school. So it's certainly something. So when you hear me talk about my mother-in-law, or we had an issue with her at the nursing home, because there's been issues with overdosing on medications. There's been issues with other residents attacking her. There's been issues with her attacking other residents. It's a whole thing. It kind of comes with the territory. But if you find this enjoyable, I might make another video on it. This might be the only video I ever make on it. We're yet to see what'll happen. But there you go. That's kind of what's going on with my mother-in-law. There's more things I'd like to share like this about my life outside of my YouTube channel, kind of let y'all get to know me a little bit more of who I am as a person. So if you did find this enjoyable, if you'd like to see more of it, leave us a like, leave us a comment, subscribe, join the Discord, all of that good stuff. And as always, go build something and be easy.